The first thing I noticed when I pulled up that gravel driveway was the sound of laughter, kids' laughter, coming from inside my mountain house. My heart just stopped. I'd been gone for 2 months planning every inch of this renovation, every beam, every window. I had the deed, the permit, the tools in my truck. And somehow there were people living in my home. Not strangers passing through, not burglars, but a whole family that looked like they belonged there. I pushed the door open and chaos exploded. A woman screamed, "Bobby, someone's breaking in," and suddenly I was face to face with this blonde lady standing in my living room like she owned the place. She had this fake calmness, hands on hips, chin high, and behind her stood a man gripping a phone like he was about to call the sheriff on me. 2 kids peeked out from behind their legs, eyes wide. I tried to breathe. "This is my property," I said slowly, holding up the official deed. "I bought it at auction in May. You need to explain why you're in my house." The woman smiled, and that smile, I swear I can still see it. Half smug, half pitying, like I was the dumbest man in Colorado. "Oh, honey," she said, "you've got it all wrong. You're trespassing. We've been living here for months. We have squatters' rights. Ever heard of adverse possession? Adverse possession." I remember hearing the term in some real estate podcast once, but never thought I'd live it. I felt my pulse hammering in my ears as her husband Bobby stepped closer. "Look, man," he said, waving his phone. "You better get off our property before I call the cops." I left before I said something I'd regret. The whole drive back to Denver, my brain kept spinning in circles. How do you fight someone who looks you dead in the eye and claims your house is their own? The next morning, I walked into my attorney, Sarah Mitchell's office, with a stack of documents under my arm and fury in my chest. Sarah's been my real estate lawyer for years, sharp as they come. When I finished my story, she didn't even blink. She just said, "They're bluffing. Adverse possession in Colorado requires 18 years, not 6 months. You've got this." Sarah dove into research mode, pulling records, utility start dates, social media posts. Within hours, she had a folder thicker than a Bible. "You're not going to believe this," she said, spinning her laptop toward me. There was the blonde woman, Karen, but with a different name posing in my kitchen. Caption: "Found our dream mountain home. Sometimes you just have to take what life gives you." My stomach turned. Post after post showed her bragging about her renovation project. They'd even used my lumber, my paint, my tools to make it cozy. It wasn't desperation. It was a scam. Sarah kept scrolling and whispered, "Marcus, she's done this before. Court records, eviction notices, trespassing charges, even a restraining order from another county. She wasn't just a squatter, she was a professional." That was the moment I realized this wasn't about one property. It was about principle. People like her counted on decent folks being too tired, too scared, too polite to fight back. Not this time. 2 days later, Sarah and I met Deputy John Caldwell at the Boulder County Sheriff's Office. He was this grizzled mountain man type, polite but no nonsense. After reviewing the file, he said, "This is cut and dry criminal trespass. Serve them the notice document, everything, and if they don't move, I'll make sure they do." When we pulled up to the cabin again, the pine trees looked different, still heavy, like they knew something big was about to happen. Deputy Caldwell handed me a clipboard. "You stand back. I'll talk." He knocked once, firm. The door opened, and there she was, arms crossed, eyes full of fire. "You can't harass my family like this," she snapped. The deputy's voice stayed calm. "Ma'am, you're being served with a formal notice of trespass. You have 72 hours to vacate or face arrest." She laughed, but it wasn't that smug smile this time. It was brittle. "You think some piece of paper scares me? We've got rights," Caldwell just said. "Then you'll get to explain those rights to a judge," and walked back to his patrol car. For 3 days, I waited, checking the calendar, replaying every scenario in my head. When we returned that Friday, I knew before we even reached the driveway that they hadn't left. The porch light was on, curtains drawn, and a new sign hung over the door. Renovation in progress. Keep out. They'd changed the locks. Caldwell shook his head. That's felony-level mischief right there. A neighbor named Mrs. Patterson came jogging down the gravel road, waving. "You must be the real owner," she said. "That woman came by weeks ago asking about your renovation schedule, wanted to know when you were starting." She planned this. Her testimony sealed it. This wasn't squatting. It was theft. Caldwell took photos, made calls, and by the next morning he had a warrant. When the court date came, Karen strutted in wearing a navy blazer, like she was the victim of some grand injustice. Her public defender tried to argue adverse possession again, but Sarah dismantled him line by line. Deed dates, utility activations, social media, timestamps. Mrs. Patterson's affidavit about Karen's premeditation hit like a hammer. The judge didn't even need to deliberate long. Verdict: immediate eviction, restitution, daily fines, and criminal charges. But if you think that ended it, you don't know Karen. When the sheriff's team arrived for the eviction, she'd turned the front lawn into a protest camp. Hand-painted signs, "Stop Family Displacement Housing Justice Now," and a live stream setup broadcasting her unlawful eviction. She looked straight into a camera and declared, "We've improved this home. We have rights." Deputy Caldwell cut through the noise with a single sentence. "Ma'am, you are under arrest for contempt of court." That's when Bobby cracked. Right there on camera, her husband turned pale and said, "We just needed money. She told me if we stayed long enough, he'd pay us to leave." The crowd went silent. Karen lunged at him, screaming, "Shut up, Bobby," as deputies cuffed her. They took them away, and for the first time in months, the house was quiet again. Walking through it felt surreal. The floors were gouged walls, cracked wiring torn out like they wanted to punish the place itself. But beneath the wreckage, the bones were still good. I replaced the locks, installed security systems, and started over. Every nail I drove in felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. The renovation became therapy. Mrs. Patterson stopped by with coffee, local contractors volunteered overtime, and within weeks, the house started to shine again. When the insurance claim went through, Sarah called with the update. "You'll get full reimbursement and damages. Karen's facing 18 months in county jail." I stood in that finished living room, same spot where she once declared it was hers, and looked out at the mountains. The air felt different, clean again. Funny thing is, that house became more than an investment. It became a lesson. Now I speak at local property owner meetings, sharing what I learned: how to document, how to act fast, how to stand your ground without losing your mind. I tell people the same thing Sarah told me. Rights only matter if you're willing to defend them. The old me thought property ownership was about deeds and signatures. The new me knows it's about community vigilance and the courage to say no, you can't take what isn't yours. So yeah, I came back to renovate a mountain house and ended up rebuilding myself instead. What do you think? Was justice served? Would you have handled it differently if it were your home? Drop a comment. Tell me where you're watching from, and if you've ever had to fight for something that was rightfully yours. And hey, don't forget to subscribe, because around here the stories only get wilder.